for people who are new, just to show you kind of how we're not just starting this. This isn't something new. I've been doing this for a long time. One of the alternatives that we had back here in May, based off of seasonal cycle, your spring high is the highest point that you have. So when we topped out in the May peak here, this is 2025 May peak, the alternative was that you would pull back then over the next, until end of year, because it's a yearly cycle. You would then pull back to find that lowest V point of this iteration. The lowest point is your V point. So pulling back to that point is anything below 1758, I think is the number, and then as low as 1580. So that was the alternative presented there. Obviously, forward tracking, that is what happened. We did not break out continuous and instead made the lower high and then continued tracking for the um, consolidation phase of summer. That's what this indicates. So that's what we got here. Perfect consolidation, held the levels just as it should. Wanted to see the pullback and then pop back up to resistance and then continue our S curve to go find V end of year. That's what we started doing. So we got the pop up. That then confirmed your C point. Your C point. I pulled an equation date to try to, forecast when our V might have been. At this time, earnings wasn't announced. This was the White House tweet, and we got a small pop up. So it had me, thinking that that was the correct position, following a C on our way to V. This was the one of the recent updates. That micro movement was not this point, and instead our equation date of the 20th was this V point, obviously leading us up to the earnings then, December 9th. I mentioned that if on earnings we do not break above 2350, that I would continue tracking this as that point on our way between T and V. And what is this thing, here? It's a completed micro iteration, a C top, middle, T, and V. So C top, middle, T is in the S curve, and then a V. So that's what I have side by side shown here. Adjusted the equation date. Oh, I don't have the screenshot of the equation date ready. Okay, give me just a second. I'll pull it up so you can see where I'm using. Equation date. Pulled this equation date from low high. This gave us 117 to 111. So a little bit of a larger trend. The one that I used to get this November 20th to 23rd, 23rd, yeah, was a smaller trend. This is a little bit of a larger trend. So obviously, if it's a bigger trend, then it's forecasting us farther out. Using the same high point, change in low point. Anyways, that's equation stuff. Um, so that's what I have shown here. Highlighted is that 111 to 118 equation. And again, we're just trying to find the V. The V is only confirmed with time and price. So for like this side by side, did we hit below $18 by November 20? If we weren't in that range, then this isn't the V. And so that was in the Discord, we talked about it a bunch. And then we pulled the larger equation, which gave us this farther out date of 11/11, 11/18. And then I'm also pulling this micro trend now of November 20th to here, this smaller trend, just to forecast the next micro volatility date. That's 1/5 to 1/8. So we have, there's different layers to the onion. You know what I mean? We're using all these different tools that we know work and work well to try to paint this perfect picture, micro tracking into MOASS. Can you guys see the dates at the bottom? You can't. You cannot. That's kind of important to me. Let me see if I can fix that real quick. Shoot, sorry. There. Yeah, the bottom dates are kind of important. I would like to see those. Okay, so this is the updated side by side. We are tracking through this micro position. How do I confirm that now, right? I want to be able to confirm that by then going to other iterations, multiple different iterations. Let me hold on a second. See, now I'm all getting this. let me bring it back. Macro position, this is updated. Here's where I believe that we are completing this micro iteration to go find V. Let's zoom in on this from T to V, from T to V. Let's zoom in on this to see if we can get any better details. You can see it's just a completed iteration, a C top. This is before your S, so this is middle S curve to go find the next V. So this would be a C top, lower high, S curve to go find a micro V. Okay, so we're confirmed on macro position where we think that we are. This is the basic landmarks that I'm showing here. It's a C top, lower high, middle, last high to go find V. And then the cycle restarts. A, higher low, breakout. Just like back here, I show the previous is a V, higher low, and breakout. The anatomy of a jet test, A, B, C, completes through. So that this means that we can find these different iterations all throughout the macro. The macro being this darker triangle, ITMFs or JANs are this dotted iteration, and then you have micros, which are obviously the smallest iteration inside of here. This is a great model that I put across. Pause it to read it. There it is. So moving forward, we can also do 2020 macro position, just like I showed on all these previous side-by-sides. We can do 2020 compared to different scaled iterations. For this example, I'm showing it with the macro 2021. There's your C top, middle, last high to go find V, to April 2023. Or, dang, this is actually April 2024. I got to make an edit on this. This is April 2024. So zooming in on both of those, just like how we did on the macro, I'm just zooming in T to V. I also want to zoom in T to V here. And this is what May is from this perspective. You are completing this iteration to then S-curve and go find V. From T to V, from T to V. This is the final iteration before you find your V point. So, oh man, I can't believe I marked that. 2023. It's actually 2024. I will correct that on the next updates. So just like what we just did here, 2020 to macro, we can also do that to our current position. Our current position being C top 2024 May to our current looking for V. And if we compared these two side by side, May is compared to the final iteration before finding V. Here's that zoomed in just from T to V, and then for our macro T to V. This is what we got. So the landmark is now confirmed on both the macro position as being that final micro iteration before finding your lowest point V. And then it's also confirmed with these different side-by-sides of macro 2021 to April 2024. Here's that, again, zoomed in. So I'm just trying to, the equation that I have marked here, 1.5 to 1.7, I'm just trying to paint this perfect picture. If we start S-curve 1.5 to 1.7, then that is the volatility date that we called for. And then our more macro would be the V point 111 to 118. And again, the equation's not like magical. It doesn't know what the landmark is that we're going for. We have to do that as we understand the pattern and try to use these two tools together to paint the perfect picture. So that's what I have here. Yes, I have the V placed there because that's what I'm trying to show. Just like I did in November. I'm just saying this because somebody on Reddit said you keep moving your V. Yes, I'm trying to show here that if this is the volatility point to go find V below 1769, that's where the V's gonna be. As that played out, obviously that wasn't our V point. We never confirmed with price being below $18. So on the future ones, I obviously adjusted the V point. Sorry. Yes, I adjusted the V point as data played out. We're micro tracking to MOASS. So, if you want to say I was wrong, okay, I was wrong, but it's still, everything still looks great. So forward tracking from that. Now we have our macro position confirms this little black box as position. We have different macro comparisons as far as macro 2021 to April 2024. And then we have our current position being black box compared to a macro, same macro. Now let's compare it to, here's the May side by side. Boom, boom. Obviously, so now to May, if you're looking at just May to now, and this is why I'm saying I don't like using May because it gets a little confusing. It's different than what I showed with this. In this more macro perspective, 2024 to April bottom is a micro iteration to it. In this example, you're at that final micro iteration down here. This is just before, we'll call it April to April bottom. So if this landmark is the final iteration to go find V, then the comparable is actually to this point. And this is what I mean when I say that using May just kind of confuses things. It's not a good example for showing this, and people aren't lining it up correctly. So here it is side by side. Basic landmarks, C, middle, T to go find V. So in this example, we're just playing out this as a micro, and we still have to complete this S curve to go find low V. So if that's the case and we confirm lower high here to this, just like this, if this confirms lower high and we start breaking lower levels, then yes, May is it looks like this example, but there are better perspectives to understand our position. This isn't the best one, but it looks great. Don't get me wrong, it still looks good. You just have to set it up right. People were setting us up at high or low on the other side already, but when you line it up like this, you can see that they're not lining it up correctly. They're starting, a lot of them, some of them are starting from this M point to show that it's like C, M, T, V. Of course we're on high or low. The V is already done. But when you look at it from this perspective, I'm hoping, if I'm explaining this correctly, you can see that this is actually a little bit different. And so I'm also gonna show you another way that I use to confirm my position. Is I use Jan theory. Jan theory is a yearly cycle of landmarks. It is not a macro position. It is 1 year iterations of the very specific landmarks to create a larger macro. And so that's what this shows us. And the impact zone here is seasonal cycle. Seasonal cycle is just the fall to winter kind of window where a pattern can finish wherever volume is introduced. That's what makes it an impact zone. So when I zoom in on these impact zones, I know that I'm anchoring myself to a completed iteration. I'm not just guessing it, saying it looks like May, it looks like this. I actually have a confirmed 1 year cycle of landmarks that I can use to identify where I am in my yearly cycle. That's not just guessing, areas. Where in my yearly cycle from 2025 to 2026 am I? Boom. Solid answers. You don't have to guess. It's very consistent on multiple tickers. It's good. So I use Jan theory to then side by side my impact zones to macro position 2020. Sorry, let me at least show you the updated one. So the ones that I'm going to show you here are now 2020, where we are on a yearly cycle of landmarks. What does that mean? That means I'm zooming in again from T to V on each one of our yearly cycles in this impact zone, November to January. So here we are, and it's M to T is the way that I want to show this. Instead of just zooming in T to V, I'm showing it from M to V. Same idea, just still confirming where we are with this black box. And so here it is side by side, 2020 to 2021 fall landmarks. This is the end of the cycle going into V. And what do we have here in the black box? It is the completed micro iteration, the same one that we're highlighting on our current position. So there's that final landmark to then go find V. And of course, that's, your M top. Here's your T. Then you go find V. So same thing lines up here. Here's that micro iteration to go find V. Here it is on the 2020, or I'm sorry, 2022. Same idea. M top, T is your middle to go find V. There's a micro iteration here. So M top, T is your middle. Here's that completed iteration to go find V that ends the end of the year. And then a new iteration begins. What's the new iteration? 2023. So here again, zoomed in is just M, T to V, M, T to V. And this micro iteration here, you can highlight this one. I have this one highlighted. It could be this one. You're micro tracking. So either one of these, the goal here though is to highlight this landmark from T to V. T to V, this is that point. This is that point. And then, oh, this is that equation. So, I mean, there you go. That's it. What'd that take? 10 minutes? Nice. There's your completed updated. Here's, again, the progression. Boom, boom, boom. Here's your current position. I'm zoomed in on black box here. Boom, black box. Looking to go find V still is the lowest point of the iteration. That's all we're looking to do here is to break this yellow box or this yellow line. And so that's below 1757, and because of Jan theory, I expect that landmark towards the end of the year into January. We have equation dates for 111 to 118. So that's what I'm looking for. I am looking for a V, 111 to 118, and I believe that that S curve landmark will start. Oh shit! Now I lost it. Will start 1.5 to 1.8. Also, we have a short week next week because of the holidays, and then you also have New Year's, and those have been known to be kind of red weeks. So that even further confirms, just like I was assuming that earnings was going to start the downtrend to go find V, that did. The same thing I'm doing here is saying that if this confirms with lower price targets and we're falling into this 1.5 to 1.8, that's your start of S curve, and you're going to then fall down to go find V. It is a quick landmark. You do not have a lot of time left on this. Still, even when I started updating Jan theory on like Reddit and everywhere else and taking it really seriously, it was over the summer. And I've been saying end of year looks like, because based off of this, that, and the other thing, it looks like it should be an end of year break. And so here we are. You don't have a lot of time left on this. Let's bring in some questions. What do you guys think? I'll pull up. I have all the side by sides here. If there's something you want to see better, clear, understand, ask a question, whatever you want to do.